Closed time loop. The idea here is that you can travel back in time, but you can't actually change history. So if you go back and try and prevent the assassination of President McKinley, it turns out that you kill him yourself. Or if you go back and try and prevent the Black Plague, it turns out that you are a flea-ridden diseased rat. This creates some weird effects. For instance, if you find an ancient solid gold potato ricer in your backyard, you can go back in time and place it there yourself, which raises the question, what created the solid gold potato ricer in the first place? You'd think that nothing could exist in a monotonous, pointless loop of untime with no beginning or end, but in my experience, that describes most laundromats. A-. Branching timelines. This model holds that you can't actually change a given timeline. Rather, when you go back in time, time itself splits like dry flyaway hair into alternate universes. Enough time travel and you end up with universes where apes evolved from laurel trees, or there was once an intelligent conversation on Dig. I think that in situations like this, people would start to emigrate from the crappy timelines to the nice ones, possibly forming gated communities with alternate universe versions of themselves, and having potlucks where everyone ends up bringing the potato salad. B. Linear time. You go back in time, you change time, you return to a very different now. But what if you go back in time and kill your own grandfather before you were born? It's pretty much inevitable. I mean, going back in time without killing your own grandfather, that's like going to Philadelphia and not having a cheesesteak. But once you kill your grandfather, then of course you'll never be born, which means you can't go back in time to kill your grandfather, etc., etc., etc. To prevent this, a lot of movies like to throw in arbitrary loopholes, like you have 24 hours, whatever 24 hours means when you're time traveling, to go back and set things right. It turns out that explicit causality is very important for box office revenues. B+. Self-repairing time. In this model, time is like a drug addict that really wants to change but keeps backsliding. So if you go back in time to 1974 and throw Bill Gates off a cliff, suddenly some guy named Gil Bates will put on glasses, get a bad haircut, and start a software company. This is a popular model of time for authors who don't like thinking too much. It's because you can write a story where South America was eaten by a giant space capybara in the 80s, but you can still get a cinnamon dulce latte at Starbucks. D. Bad time. According to this, there's a single correct timeline, one that needs to be enforced by some sort of temporal police. How can you tell which is the correct time? Well, of course, it's the one where someone formed a temporal police force. In fact, I suspect that the time cop's main job is to prevent the forming of a timeline where people are free and happy without any interference from a temporal police force. This is also known as hippie time. Continued existence is the ultimate job security. D+.